Hey y'all, welcome in. I'm Emily. This is Freaked Out and Flawless, where trauma-wired humans come to do the real work and level up from the inside out. Let's get into it. Today, I want to tell you about something that happened to me a while back, just driving down the road. I made this simple decision to pass a car. That's it. That's the whole darn event. The moment I signaled and started to move over, I was already sweating. There was dread in my gut, that low, familiar burn that shows up when you're bracing for something but you don't know exactly what yet. As I pulled alongside them, my foot started shaking. Not a little tremble, a full leg spasm, like a shiver with no cold attached to it. I'm pitting out, I have sweaty palms, my face is flush, I've got a racing heart, and electric zings running through my whole body. And I'm driving. I still have to drive. So I do what I always do. I manage it. I breathe intentionally. I start talking myself down. All you did was pass a car. You're fine. Nobody's coming for you. Just drive. I have to flex and release my legs because shaking them out right now is not an option at 60 miles an hour. I'm doing nervous system first aid on myself in the front seat of a moving vehicle. A few minutes later, the physical symptoms had faded, but my body was still braced, still waiting for a jump scare that never came. All I did was pass a car. That's not a traffic problem, is it? And I don't think that's a road rage problem. That's not even really an anxiety problem, though it might seem so on the surface. That was my nervous system running an old program in real time at 60 miles an hour. And that's what brings me to today's topic, how trauma doesn't get metabolized. Here's something most of us were never taught. Your nervous system has a cycle, a beginning, a middle, and an end. When something threatening happens, real or perceived, your body mobilizes. Adrenaline pumps, cortisol floods, heart rate goes up, your muscles brace, the whole system comes online, ready to fight, flee, or freeze. And when that threat passes, the cycle is supposed to complete. That energy that got mobilized is supposed to discharge, come down, and you reset. Watch an animal in the wild after a threat passes. They literally shake, full body trembling, legs, spine, jaw. It looks pretty strange if you don't know what you're watching. But Dr. Peter Levine spent decades studying exactly that process. And what he found was that shaking isn't weakness. That's actually the nervous system completing the cycle, discharging the mobilized energy so the animal can return to baseline. Animals in the wild don't get PTSD, and that sure isn't due to their environment. Their lives are dangerous. Wild animals don't get PTSD because they complete the nervous system energy cycle. Humans don't always get to do that. We are taught how to tough it out and suppress our emotional responses and then logic our way out of it. We're expected to file this away in some special file like a Law and Order episode titled SVU, Extreme Circumstances Only, and move on with our lives. We're rewarded for going back to work quickly. We're rewarded for remaining unchanged, supposedly, from the event. We're rewarded for masking and carrying on like it was just some other ballgame. But what really happens during trauma, especially sustained or repetitive trauma like the kind that causes complex PTSD, we get the threat, we mobilize, and then we perform. We manage. We hold it together. We might even take blame that isn't ours. We make the required apology. We go back to our desk. We drive home. We make dinner. We do all the things a functioning person does. And the energy that got mobilized, it doesn't just disappear because we moved on. It goes somewhere. It goes into the nervous system. This is actually called a negative feedback loop. In the laws of physics, the rule of energy conservation, the very principle is that energy never dies. It is only transferred or transmuted. Transmuted is the fancy word for shifting from one state to another. A simple example is boiling water. The water releases vapor in the form of steam. That's a transmutation of energy. But that energy just didn't disappear to nothingness. You see, it became something else and lived on in another state. If you caught the last episode, you heard me talk about a boss who came into my office and berated me. And I handled it. I stayed relatively composed-ish, responded, walked out of that room still standing. We got through the altercation. I made the apology that was required. And I never came down. That unfinished cycle didn't evaporate. It went into my body, into my bracing muscles, into my hypervigilance every time that person walked into a room. Heck, even every time I went to work, my nervous system was firing off like I'd been hit by a truck every time. Every time something small happened, every time I had to go to work, my nervous system was activated. Turns out that's not oversensitivity like I thought at the time. That's the signal of an incomplete metabolization. And here's what makes it so invisible. The more times this incomplete loop occurs, the more your body starts running that incomplete energy in the background all the time. It's like a nearly invisible background app with each incomplete loop, open in its own tab. And that's living not so rent-free in your nervous system. And that's not because there's a current threat. It's because your system never got the signal that the old ones were over. So you pass a car in traffic and your leg starts shaking like a rattler about to bite. It is not because of the car you were passing. It's just because your body is trying to finish something it started a long time ago. And this adrenaline spike reminds your nervous system of that open loop in the background. That shaking in the front seat, that might actually be your nervous system attempting to complete the cycle, doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Finally getting a chance to discharge what it never got to fully metabolize. Awareness is only the beginning, and you'll be surprised how many tools are available for you right there at home to help you learn how to manage and release these sneaky loops. Your body isn't broken. It's been trying to heal this whole time. You just didn't have the language for what it was doing yet. Time for the scoop. If the cycle doesn't complete, where the heck does it go? Dr. Besser van der Kolk spent decades answering that question, and what he found is exactly what the title of his book says. The body keeps the score. Not your journal, not your memory, not your conscious mind. I mean, sure, they hold memory information, but the non-metabolized energy actually goes into your body and into your nervous system, just like my favorite donuts. A minute on the lips, a lifetime on the hips. Well, a moment in time can freeze in your nervous system the exact same way. It lives in the chronic tension in your shoulders that never fully releases, the jaw you clench at night without knowing it, the gut that drops when someone uses a certain tone of voice, the startle response that fires when a door slams down the hall, that exhaustion that has absolutely nothing to do with how much you slept. It lives in the way you brace before you ask for help at the grocery store, before you pass a car in traffic, how you avoid asking for help, how you never ask for that raise or go find the job that values you, how you never go find the job that values you, the way you question everything before you hit publish on something real. It lives in what we call personality, preference, quirk. It's just the way I am. I avoid confrontation, that's just me. I don't like being the center of attention, that's just me. I need a lot of alone time to recover, that's just me. Maybe. Or maybe that's your nervous system running a protection program so old you've forgotten it was ever installed. Those are all learned nervous system responses. And some of these traits aren't actually personality traits at all. If there is unprocessed energy attached, your nervous system is once again making decisions without your full consent. For me, it showed up in my joints. I was born with hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, but I didn't know that yet at 20. Before my first pregnancy, symptoms were minor enough nobody, really including me, had any idea something was that different about my connective tissue. Pregnancy definitely changed that, and it does that with hypermobile EDS. Something shifts hormonally and structurally, and suddenly a body that was quietly compensating in the background can't compensate anymore. So at 20, I wasn't just in a NICU running on adrenaline and survivor mode. I was in a body that had just been fundamentally changed, that I didn't have a diagnosis for, that nobody could explain, and I'm unraveling in real time, faster than I could even realize this wasn't just exhaustion from all the new stress. Then you figure in the factors of the chronic stress and unprocessed trauma on top of this connective tissue disorder, and all of this is figuring out its new normal. I want to be clear. Hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos has its own plans regardless of my emotional state, and this is a genetic disorder. I won't be healing my trauma and curing it, though I do look forward to the improvements that will come with emotional healing. This disorder does not care how regulated I am when it comes to keeping my joints in their proper place or being able to walk long distances without a wheelchair, or that I'm a side sleeper, or that I love cheese. But what I did find once I started paying attention was that there's a significant correlation between emotional stress and physical flares. I used to think that my flares just came out of nowhere. Then I started paying more attention, and what I found was they almost always followed something emotionally stressful. A hard conversation, a week of performing, situations where I had to be someone in the room that, like I had to be something that was needed, not somebody I actually am. My emotions are only one aspect of what drives this train, but they are an aspect. And that part I have some influence over. My body was keeping score in real time, and I wasn't reading the scoreboard. And that's not unique to EDS. That's true for every chronic condition, every autoimmune disorder, every fibromyalgia diagnosis, every unexplained fatigue that stumped every doctor you ever saw. Your body has been trying to tell you something in the only language it has. In my case, many symptoms will be exaggerated due to emotional stress, though they do remain even in regulated times. For example, my appetite and digestion is severely affected by emotional stress. I will have responses where I'm not hungry at all for days, and soon I'm violently throwing up even after not being able to eat for that long period of time, and forcing myself to eat doesn't help. There are times in those episodes I can't even keep water down. Once the stress response passes, I can finally eat again, and sometimes, probably quite often, that leads me to a binge. And I still have plenty of digestion interruptions aside from emotional stress. Gut motility and digestive issues are part of the EDS diagnosis, but I can largely manage that with diet and nutrition until emotional stress enters the picture, and then my nervous system just kind of does its own thing. When it comes to processing trauma, the question isn't what's wrong with your body. The questions are, where does it show up when you get triggered? What are your physical symptoms during and following emotional stress episodes? The ultimate question is, what happened and where in my body did it go? Now, if trauma lives in the body, it makes sense that the body is also where the healing has to happen. This is where a lot of us hit a wall, because we were taught that healing happens by talking about it, processing it, understanding it. You're getting to the root of it in a therapy room and finally making sense of it all. And listen, therapy has its place. I'm not here to tell you to stop going. But Dr. van der Kolk found something that changed how we understand that trauma treatment. Talk therapy alone has significant limits when it comes to trauma stored in the body, because the part of your brain that holds traumatic memory, the part that fires when your legs start shaking in traffic, that part doesn't speak in words. So you cannot talk your way out of a body response. You cannot logic your way to feeling safe. You cannot think yourself into regulation. We tend to think of processing as something we do in the mind or by talking about it, but the act of processing is so much more. An important part of processing is the physical piece, and that's where somatic work comes in. So let's actually define that, because somatic is one of those trendy words that gets thrown around in wellness spaces without much explanation. Somatic comes from the Greek word soma, meaning body. Somatic therapy is any therapeutic approach that works with the body as an entry point for healing rather than starting with the mind. It operates on the understanding that trauma is not just a psychological event, it is a physiological one, and it has to be addressed at that level. Dr. Peter Levine developed one of the most well-known somatic frameworks, simply called Somatic Experiencing. It works by helping you track physical sensations in your body as they arise, complete, incomplete threat responses, and gradually build what Levine calls a felt sense of safety. Not a thought about safety, a felt experience of it, in the body, in real time. And here's the science underneath all of it. Remember Hebb's law from episode 1? Neurons that fire together wire together. Every time your nervous system fires a threat response, whether the threat is real, or a memory, or a passing car on the highway, those neural pathways get reinforced. The more they fire together, the more efficiently they wire together. Your brain is literally building a faster, stronger road to that response every time it runs. Somatic work interrupts that. By pairing the activation with new physical signals, breath, movement, sensation, safety, you are introducing new information into that neural pathway. You are building a fork in the road, a new option. Over time, with repetition, the new pathway becomes more obvious to your brain. The old one doesn't disappear, but it stops being the only route your nervous system knows, and then as you pass by, it looks a little overgrown, and you're more easily to access and travel the new road. The more your nervous system realizes the new training. The roadwork project is finally complete, and you can routinely take the new path instead. That's neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to rewire itself based on new experience. And somatic practice is one of the most direct ways to access it because you are finally working at the level where the pattern actually lives. We covered this in episode 2. Dr. Stephen Porges' polyvagal theory tells us that safety is a physiological state before it is a psychological one. Physical before mental, body before mind, always. So what does somatic work actually do? It completes the cycle your nervous system never got to finish. It sends new signals through old pathways, and it teaches your body through direct experience, not reassurance, that it is safe enough to come down and regulate. Your nervous system doesn't respond to words. It speaks sensation, movement, breath, rhythm, pressure, temperature. Somatic work speaks that language back. So every time you intentionally slow your breath, you're sending a signal. You're practicing somatics. Every time you feel your feet on the floor and let that be enough, you're sending that signal. Every time you shake out your hands and let yourself cry instead of managing it, you're sending a signal. That is the core work of somatic tools. You're telling your nervous system in the only language it actually understands, the physical, the threat is over. You made it. You can come down now. That's not woo-woo. That's your vagus nerve receiving information from your body and updating the threat assessment in real time. Finally. Now, somatic work shows up in a lot of forms, and I want to give you a map so you know what you're looking at when you encounter these things. There's a lot of breath work. Mostly, a lot of breath work in the root of somatics. Intentional, structured breathing that directly regulates your autonomic nervous system. These are slow exhales that activate your parasympathetic system, and this activates your rest and digest state. This is the most accessible somatic tool that you have because you always have your breath with you anywhere you are. Then there's EFT, which is the emotional freedom technique, also called tapping. This is a process where you use your fingertips to tap specific acupressure points on your face and body while focusing on a distressing thought or feeling. It sounds strange until you try it, but the bilateral stimulation combined with the physical contact sends safety signals while the nervous system is activated. And the research on this one has grown significantly in the last decade. Tai Chi, Qigong, slow intentional movement paired with breath and present moment awareness. These are some of the most accessible somatic practices for people with physical limitations because it meets your body exactly where it is. It's not exercise for fitness, it's movement as nervous system regulation. There's biofeedback. There are various technologies that measure your physiological state in real time, measuring factors like heart rate variability, skin conductance, brain waves, and feeds that information back to you so you can learn to consciously influence it. It essentially teaches you to read your own scoreboard and change the game while you're playing it. Then there's TRE, which is tension and trauma release exercises. These were developed by Dr. David Berceli, and this practice actually induces the body's natural shaking mechanism intentionally. Remember the animals? TRE is the human version. You use a series of simple exercises to fatigue the leg muscles, and that triggers these neurogenic tremors. This is the body's built-in discharge mechanism, and it looks pretty wild, but it works. We're usually taught to suppress that shaking when we're exercising, and we try to manage it and freeze it, and instead we are supposed to process it. And these simple exercises through TRE help you do that in a controlled way. And then I want to mention EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. Now, I personally haven't done this one, but the research on it is so significant, and I've seen a lot of testimony to its effectiveness. I feel like I'd be doing a disservice not to mention it here. A therapist guides you through recalling a traumatic memory while engaging in bilateral simulation, usually following a moving light or finger with your eyes. The bilateral movement mimics what your brain naturally does during REM sleep when it processes its files and memories. Trauma memories get stuck because they never get properly filed. EMDR forces the filing process while you're awake, and it's one of the most research-backed trauma treatments available and worth exploring with a qualified therapist. Make sure you have that connection before you just dive in. You don't have to do all of these. You don't have to do any of them, especially not perfectly, because that's not what we do here at Freaked Out and Flawless. But you do have a map. And somewhere on that map is a door your nervous system can walk through. Small signals, repeated consistently over time. That's how the window widens. That's how the program gets updated. That's how a body that's been bracing for decades, slowly, imperfectly, and non-linearly, learns what safety actually feels like. Not because you convinced yourself, but because you opened the door and led your nervous system through the cycle, teaching it, and therefore becoming the programmer of your own mind. I want to give you something practical, but I need to reframe what practical means first. Because when most of us hear somatic practice, we picture a yoga studio, a therapist's office, a specific breathing technique with a name we can't pronounce, something that requires the right conditions, the right setting, the right headspace. And that's not what I'm talking about, because that's not Freaked Out and Flawless style. We take imperfect action here, and we live real lives in real time. We can't always stop and take an hour of private time. We can't always afford the damn class, and sometimes all we have is the moment it takes to walk into a room to collect ourselves. So I'm talking about what you can do in your car, in your bathroom, in the 30 seconds between putting the kids to bed and completely losing your mind, on your worst day, in your worst moment, with nothing but your own body and whatever's around you. Here's the framework, and it's simple. Whenever these symptoms show up in your body, it needs love. Not analysis, not reframing, not fixing. Love, attention, permission to move. If it's in your chest, breathe into it, slow, intentionally, fully, not to make it stop, just to be there with it. If you cry, allow it. If it's in your legs, shake them, dance, jump up and down. Let the energy that just activated find somewhere to go. If it's in your belly, try a fire breath. That's short, sharp exhales out through your nose. Let your belly lead the way. Let it be loud if it needs to be loud. That exhale is letting out stale, stagnant energy, and it's worth pushing it out even if someone hears you. It isn't a fart after all. If it's in your face, your jaw, your throat, cry if it's there. Yell if it's there. Not at anyone, just out. Sound is discharge, and your body knows that even when your mind is embarrassed by it. I personally like to use my driving time to get these sounds out. So what if a driver looks over and sees me making weird faces? I just gave them something interesting to ponder. They'll have a great day. I'll be in their mind running through. And if your system's running hot, splash some cold water on your wrists, run water on your forearms, splash water on the back of your neck, maybe an ice pack on the back of your neck, splash your face. Run that cool water over your hands and just feel it. That's not just a coping trick. That's a direct signal to your vagus nerve that your body is safe enough to start coming down. If you only have the moment between the bathroom and your office, squeeze your hands together a couple times. stuck in a meeting or a Bible study or something, wiggle your toes gently in your shoes. Can't do a fire breath because you are in public and, well, maybe that's more anxiety than you already have. Still be intentional. Find your breath, but do something like touch your tongue to the roof of your mouth and press for 3 seconds. Create a physical sensation. Here's the part that really matters the most, and the part that goes against everything a perfectionist, high-performance brain like yours wants to do in this moment. You're not trying to fix it while you feel it. You are not trying to understand it. You're not trying to reframe it right now. This is not the time to figure out where it came from or what it means or how to make sure it never happens again. That's not right now. Right now, the only job you have is allowing and flowing. Let it cry, let it shake, let it dance, let it fire off. Give consent this time and allow your nervous system to do what it's been trying to do for years without your permission. The understanding comes later. The journaling comes later. The therapy session will happen later. All that cognitive work, the meaning making, the reframing, the connecting it back to the old program and training the new one, that all has its place, just not in this moment. In this moment, you are no longer a student of your trauma. You are a physical body that is finally being given permission to handle unfinished business. For me, this looks like breathing first, always. Then movement, whatever my body wants. Sometimes it's shaking my arms out. Sometimes it's dancing in my kitchen. Sometimes it's crying in the shower. Sometimes it's jumping up and down like a complete idiot in my living room. And I let it go until it goes. Not till I understand it, until it moves through. Most often for me, it is breathwork and finding ways to let the heebie-jeebies out that I don't throw a hip out. And sometimes that somatic work leads to a nap, which is also completely normal because you just discharged a whole bunch of energy that has been stored for a long time. And then when the body is quieter, that's when I pick up the journal. That's when I call my therapist. That's when I ask what this stuff was about. 2 steps, not 1. Feel it first, understand it after. Body first, always. Your nervous system has been waiting for you to give it this permission for a long time. Your micro habit this week is simple. Notice the alarm. Not to fix it, not to analyze it, remember, just notice it. Start learning the signals your body sends when something activates. Is it the shaking leg, the gut drop, the flushed face, the electric zings, the bracing that starts up before you even know why? You can't work with something you haven't learned to recognize yet, so this week just start reading the scoreboard. Your journal prompt: what are the signals in your body when an emotional rise happens? How do you know the alarm just sounded? Now write it out. Get specific. You get a tight jaw, your shoulders come to your ears, your stomach is in knots, your chest feels tight, can't catch your breath, the thing that happens to your hands. Learn your own language and your grace plan, because nothing ever goes according to plan. Trust yourself. These symptoms are uncomfortable, and most of us have spent a lifetime doing everything we can to suppress them, manage them, and perform through them. We're here to unlearn that, and that will take time. You are going to have moments this week where you can't let yourself feel it. You're in a meeting, you're in a public place, you're in a moment that requires you to hold it together. That's okay. That's real life, dude. Sorry, that's real life. But somewhere this week, there will be a moment. I got hung up on the fact that I said dude. You're going to have moments this week where you can't let yourself feel it. You're going to be in a meeting, you're going to be in a public place, you're going to be in a moment that requires you to hold it together. And that's real life. That's okay. But somewhere this week, there will be a moment when you become activated and you have a choice. One time, just once, I want you to trust yourself to let it rise and process through you. You might ugly cry. You might shake your arms out and be done in 30 seconds. You might jump up and down in your kitchen feeling like a complete idiot. Allow yourself to take up space just once. That's the work. That's how the cycle finally gets to complete. That's how your body starts to learn, for the first time maybe ever, that it's safe to feel it. You've got this. And if you don't yet, you're on the way there. Just keep trying, one moment, one signal at a time. Freaked out and flawless and right on time. You are worth it. and I'll see you next time.